audience. It's great to see some of you guys here. Um, that clip that's playing in the background that we just heard, which we'll hear more of later, is how we got to know our artist of the evening, Raehann Bryce-Davis, who is here with us this evening in person, kind of as much in person as anybody can be these days. Here she is. Hey, Raehann.
Hello.
And that's how we first got to know you, was in that incredible Verdi Requiem, now 2.5 years ago. It was April 29th, 2018, which seems just like in another universe right now, right? It's not just
Absolutely.
seen 2 seasons ago. And we got to know you and your wonderful colleagues, and that was an incredible performance. Uh, Lots has happened since then, most notably in the last 8 or 9 months. But how have you been?
I mean, I'm doing well. It's World Opera Day, so it's been
Isn't that
mm,
great that we
it's
happened to do this on that day? That was not
it's
planned.
it is true. It is true. So it's been lovely seeing everybody's memories and, just reminiscing on the glory that is our art form, when it is, especially when it is in full swing. Um, so I'm good. I'm feeling upbeat. I think we must have glorious days ahead, and
Right.
we can't even go back to how it was. We will move forward and make it better than ever. And this time, ideally, will just make us reflect on how exactly to do that when we open back with a bang.
Yeah. Do you find, I have found that, do you find that this, very weird moment has made you really sort of go into deeper thinking about what it is we do? Not just taking it for granted. Oh, there'll be an audience, there'll be a concert hall to go to or appear at, and it's all just there. And suddenly we have to really think about what this art is that we do.
Well, definitely. And we have to be okay with ourselves because ourselves is all we have, in these
Mm-hmm.
moments. And all of a sudden, what does the art mean when it's just for you in that moment, and you're not sure when you're going to be able to share it with others in the traditional way. So I think that has to affect the art that we're making. Um,
Mm-hmm. Where were
so
you in early March of 2020? What was happening in your life?
I had just gotten called to do a jump in for Roberto Devereux at LA Opera. We had just finished a world premiere of Eurydice by Matt Aucoin and Sarah Rule, the librettist. And then I had jumped into this amazing cast with Angela Mead and Ramon Vargas and like all these super fancy people, and me like, hi, I'm just starting, but hey guys. Which was a lot of fun. And I had just had my first performance, and then COVID hit LA with a force. And then we were kind of just watching the news to see if we were going to have the last show. And the day before, when my mom was about to hop on her plane, the governor um, said no more crowds above, I think it was 50 at the time. So I promptly called my mom, was like, don't get on the plane. And, got to stop her before she took off. And that was it. Flew home to Texas, and all of life came to a grinding halt,
Right, right.
as all of ours did.
You had
So.
quite a full calendar uh, the rest of the year. Did any of those other performances happen in any other kind of ways, or um,
No, everything pretty much just shut
or
down.
yeah, yeah,
Everything, I think almost everything has been moved to next season. Hopefully, those will happen. A few things were moved, and now I can't do them because they conflict with other gigs, which is always sad. But, I'm happy for the organizations, at least, that they're putting them on, and for those performers and staff that have been hired for those gigs. But yeah, a lot of them have been canceled. Oddly enough, I'm more busy than I was before, but they're all things for my own motivation, which
Yes, like,
unfortunately
yeah,
is too much.
because you have a lot of motivation. So when you're talking about your teaching and your online stuff, or what else?
So right now I'm preparing for a patois oratorio that's going to be done. I made friends when I was in Jamaica with this wonderful Jamaican composer who since has moved to the States. And so he's invited me to be the narrator in his oratorio about the Apostle Paul. So it's very good. My parents are Jamaican, and so I'm flexing my muscles. Hopefully, they won't laugh at me come performance day via Zoom, of course. But yeah, so that's a project. Let me see what else is coming. What we just did in Minneapolis, dedicated to George Floyd. There was a world premiere by Anthony Davis called We Call the Roll that was really incredible. And that's something that I wouldn't have been able to do, had the world continued on as it was. They rented out the Ordway in Minneapolis, and they did live audio stream, and they'll be making a documentary later this year. So that was great. That was last week's project.
Wow.
Yeah, after that, what's after that? I need to start working on music that's upcoming. A Tristan and Isolde. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that that's going to happen in Belgium.
Nice.
We will see. There, Europe's having a spike as well. But I was supposed to be just singing in Azucena in Nuremberg in Germany, but that's now, as of now, kaput. So lots of things, lots of learning, lots of fun projects.
I love how you were in that moment in the brink of the big jump in your career and getting the jump ins and going to La Monnaie and going to Germany and going everywhere, and suddenly this, someone stuck a stick in your bicycle spokes, but you have, with your videos online and just talking to you, I never feel one shred of self-pity, or it's not fit. I just feel like you get it at such a big level, which I really love seeing.
But like, what's the point?
I know.
What's the point? Like, we're all in the same situation. So how am I special that I have no work? No, none of us has work.
And people are in these horrible situations, but
yes.
and also, but I just think you have this wonderful attitude. So where did all that come from? Where are you from? Were you born in Texas?
So as I said, my parents are Jamaican.
Yeah.
They moved first to Canada, where my sisters were born, and then they moved to Mexico for my dad to go to med school there. They were kind of waiting to get papers for the States, but while they were waiting for them to process and everything, they went to school. And so he went to med school in Mexico, and I popped out in year 2 of med school, lived there till I was 6, with a quick stint in Jamaica for a year for his internship. Then we moved to South Texas, upstate New York for like 3 years, and then we landed in North Texas and then stayed. So
all over the place.
Yeah.
When did opera and singing start for you?
So singing always. My mom is a singer, and so she always made sure we were in music lessons. We were taking piano. I played violin. I played clarinet. And we were always in orchestra and band and choir and all the things, but never opera. So I didn't start opera until college, when I was actually a business major, and my mom was like, why don't you go take some voice lessons? It couldn't hurt to just sing better. So I did. I went and studied with her teacher actually at the University of Texas, Arlington. And so when I got there, the teacher was like, what are you doing with your life exactly?
Right. I was going to say, when did you
And
find out you had that voice in there? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I never thought it was special. I grew up in a really small town. And when you're talented in a small town, it's just not that big of a deal. You know, if you're like, yeah, I'm the best singer of 20 people, like who cares? That doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Um, but that was the first time somebody was like, hey, you actually have something that you should take seriously. So I still had no intentions of kind of being a starving artist. So I went to her and I was like, do you swear to me that I have what it takes and I'm not going to be like, you know, struggling to survive? And she actually promised. She was like, yes, I promise you will make it, which is quite a
Wow.
bold
Yeah.
statement. I don't think I would promise that to
Yeah.
anybody.
Would you ever have the nerve to tell a student that? That's a hard thing to say. Never
Absolutely
have
not.
on paper.
But fortunately, she did for me because I wouldn't be here otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, let's hear a little more of that Verdi, Eric, while you have it, and then we'll go to some videos. But I want to hear, I want the as people are joining us, welcome everyone. A little more of the GVO, which for all you GVOers out there, God, it was such a good performance. I want you to hear yourselves. Why don't we just pick up again at the beginning of the Libera Me,
Sure.
like it? We're here a couple of minutes. Thanks.
Here we go.
get to that. Yeah.
So good.
How does that feel hearing that? I kind of sprung this one on you. These were not our prepared videos. That's awesome.
I just had my fingers crossed for the high notes.
Oh, well, I would check them all out before you got there. I wasn't going to do that. Yeah, that was a really, someone sent in on the chat, that was a really special performance, and it was, it was really, had a vibe to it. It was really great, which I think comes through even just in the audio. When you approach, the Verdi Requiem you've done several times, I'm sure, and when you do a new role, how do you approach things? Is it all like when you did the Eboli, or well, maybe we'll hear that next. Do you go into it sort of first off musically, text, coaches, all that stuff, or do you do a little background on the era, languages? I know all these different things go into it, but what's your process like?
Well, I try to start with big picture and then work on everything very individually. Like I'll read just like a synopsis, then I'll read the libretto all the way through, like with the storyline, and try to kind of make marks about who my character is, what other people are saying about my character. And then when I kind of have a grasp around, and read any material that is related to the storyline. Then I'll start when I hit the music. I start first I write in all my beats. Work on write in all the translations, of course. We always try to do like a word for word translation, not like a general idea, but what every single word means, so that you can create colors. And then I'll start with rhythms and then notes and then putting it all together. And then kind of as you get it in your body, you start making choices as a character and seeing how it relates to your own life, what experiences from your own life you can bring to that character, so that you're not a generic Eboli, you're yourself. Were you in the position that Eboli was in? And of course work with a director if it's an opera, and seeing
right. So you
melding
approach it as a musician and as an actor.
Definitely.
Yeah, that sounds like that kind of process.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever shown up and it's the first, either the first day that the director gives his concept? In Germany it's the Konzeptgespräch, when they give you one of those things, and it's been so outrageous you think, oh my god, how am I gonna deal with the way, because in Germany and actually now everywhere they often do a very different approach. It isn't just a traditional set and production and costume, etc. So have you ever thought, oh, inside your head, screaming, thinking, I can't do this?
I oddly am like always down for the ride. Like I like the crazies. You'll hear my dog sprinting now though back into the room. Alas, yeah, I'm like I I love being in Germany. I love being in Europe, and I love crazy ideas that are made fresh. I've been fortunate, and I haven't dealt with a director that's clearly just about ego, trying to create something that hasn't been done before, because then that gets frustrating because it's not something that's actually coming from the text. But when it is something that's coming from the text and it's something new and they've created something innovative and relevant, then it's just so wonderful and so fresh. Like, I'm not sure if you'll show the Sadko later, but that, for instance, is a very traditional Russian story that if you tell it as is, we just have no point of reference to what that piece is. Whereas the director, Daniel Kramer, who is American, he was just artistic director at English National Opera. So he made it a story about capitalism and greed, and from a just a consumeristic culture, which is something that is very real to us, you know? And my character, who traditionally is just like a narrator and is like, and this is what happened to our character. Yeah, it's Rimsky-Korsakov, a very Russian figure. What was that? Yeah.
Not an opera anyone's seen.
No, nobody's seen it. Right, which gives him even more flexibility because nobody has any expectations. So he created her as a Josephine Baker-esque figure. And and it was very interesting because it was kind of in the light of Me Too, and she was just trying to do her job as a musician, as a storyteller, and all these men were there just like kind of drooling over. So it just hit so many relevant topics.
Yeah, I think we should bring that one up now. Eric,
Okay.
Can you go to that spot? I think we have a great
Absolutely.
you in a great dress. Yeah. The Rimsky-Korsakov. Yeah. Because now I understand that. There you go. Let's hear a little bit of that. We don't need to hear him. Good. Bravo. So was that first of all fabulous production there, and I loved the dress. And someone sent in the chat, one of our violinists, that I totally see the Josephine Baker in there. Yeah. Tell me this: where was that? Was that
That
in
was
Eastern Europe?
that was in Antwerp, Belgium.
Oh, that was in Antwerp. Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was that one? Was it one of your first pieces in Russian? Was that hard to learn? I mean, that's a hard, right? That's not just like learning German and Italian rolls. Yeah.
It is not. And that role especially was really hard because, as you noticed, it's the same melody like 5 times with just a billion different words.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
that is, I think it's been one of my biggest struggles. I mean, I've done Russian, and also in that house I've done a couple Czech pieces, and that's always just so much harder. But the good thing is you work so hard on them that you will just never forget.
Right. Wake up at 3 in
You
the
know,
morning and jump in on
yeah,
that one.
because
Yeah.
since I grew up in Mexico, and in school you take like French and German classes, and I'm in those countries all the time, so it's kind of in your head a bit, and it's just like, what does this word mean again? Whereas in Russian you have to, like, every single sound you have to,
And the
it's a lot
alphabet
more
is
work.
different. Everything. The whole thing. No, I know that must have been a killer. um, so so I was noticing in that show, though, there you were. You may have been the only African American person on the stage there. That's possible, right?
Most definitely, yeah.
Most definitely, yeah. So what do you think about that? You think that's going to change now with Black Lives Matter? Do you think that we're going to change from inside the culture out? Different in Europe, maybe. I don't know. I certainly have heard my share of stories, horror stories, some real horror stories of the old days with, managers having a file, a farba file, which means color, of course, for anyone who doesn't, oh, I will put you here in this file, and there it is. And what's your take on it in these, even pre, last year, 5 years ago, whatever. Do you feel like this is an issue that we can approach now with more openness and in a more sane way?
Oh, okay, that was like 10
Sorry, I'm
possible tangents to attack.
stream of consciousness here. Yeah.
Well,
When you feel like.
right. So first of all, I have to be extremely grateful to Europe, because I think if I hadn't gone to Europe, I wouldn't be having a career right now. So Europe 1000% has its own problems, right? No one is saying that Europe is the ideal in anything. But one thing that I will give to Europe is, if they hear a voice that they think is important, they will hire you, and they will hire you for anything, which is not the case in America. In America, you have to have pedigree to start a career. And you have to go to a specific school, you have to know the specific people, you have to win the specific competitions, you have to uh, yes, and to win the specific competitions and get into the right young artist programs, you have to have had the ABC that I mentioned before.
Yeah.
So without those, it's very, very difficult to make it in America. I was singing, I was doing young artist programs while I was here. I did like Florida Grand, Michigan Opera Theater, St. Louis, but I was all kind of on this level, and I really wanted to be up there. So in the middle of my Florida Grand season, I got an opportunity to do a tour in Europe and talk to my people. I was like, do you mind, you don't terribly, there are like a million singers that could take my place here, and I really want to go there. And they were like, go with God. So I did that. I had done many competitions in America, and never ever placed. You know, the thing about race in that context is you can never say this is why that didn't happen, because who knows, all the decisions happen behind closed doors. But the fact of the matter is I never placed anywhere in America. And one year, even when I was doing my applications, I got auditions everywhere north of the Mason-Dixon line, and everywhere south did not give me an audition, which I was just like, with an exception of Houston. But Houston at that time was all New York people anyway. Right. So anyway, you know, they're just, it's difficult to talk about race in that issue in that way, because you could never say it's because, you know, whatever. But as soon as I went to, somebody mentioned Austria, as soon as I went to Vienna, the first thing I did was a Hilde Tzadek competition and won everything. And Christa Ludwig was on the front row, Hilde Tzadek was on the front row, and Brigitte Fassbender was the chair of the jury, and they were all like, "Why aren't you singing at the Met?" And I was like, I don't know, you want to call them for me? Well, I mean, that's far away, Emily. Austria still has a ways to go. I mean, I have a lot of friends right now that are at Theater in der Wien doing their Porgy and Bess. And they, as I hear, they had to start traveling with armed guards because there were so many situations of racism that the cast was facing. So this is what I'm saying. In terms of the voice, if they love the voice, they're going to hire you because they want to hear the voice. But there's still a lot of other problems that.
And same in Germany too, you would say?
It depends on where in Germany. If you're in Berlin, you'll be much better off. If you're in, I just did a show in Dessau. Yes, okay. Dessau. And then that's going to be, again, like you're the only Black person. And when you walk in, everyone's like, yeah. You know, I didn't experience any terrible racism, maybe getting followed all the time in the stores. But Vienna is very, small towns in Germany are tricky. Okay. Austria is tricky. But most of my career has been in Antwerp, where I've had such a lovely time. Although the stereotypes that you experience are different. Like in Belgium, the stereotype is that you're really cool. So because you're Black, that automatically means you're very, very cool.
Tell me this though, do you feel like people, so gosh, I mean, I wasn't even, I'm so naive. I was not even thinking that people were still just like out and out racist, you know, like, oh, we can't have, you know, that south of the Mason-Dixon line, they're not going to let you have win a competition. So that's where my head is. But I guess I was wondering, do you feel that, I mean, do directors say, no, we can't have, you know, a Black Brangena, we have to, or we can't have a white Monastitos, or, you know, that whole, because opera adds another level to that issue, because you're an actor, you're on a stage, you know, that makes a statement of some kind, you know. I just wondered if you felt you ran into that at
all. So I'm just now, like this year was my first opera contract in America, since like my old young artist days, right? So after America was like, oh, she's doing really well in Europe, I guess we should hire her. So now I'm starting to get jobs in America. And like I was saying, the boundaries here are, it's pedigree. And it's not that I didn't have any pedigree. Like I went to Manhattan School of Music. It just wasn't the pedigree. Like there's just like a few that are the chosen. And there are absolutely some Black people that are able to make it here without going abroad, but they are very few, and they have been hand chosen, and they're always like the one. You'll hear a lot of talk about the token one that is like the chosen one. And so
So you're saying, forgive me, that in fact, as a Black singer, you more need the pedigree. You think that they need to know. Do you think that's true, or
1000% true. It's true for everyone,
yeah,
but it's especially true when you're Black.
yeah?
So yeah. But again, that not that it's illegal, because there are those one few ones that can do it. Like Janae Bridges, she didn't leave. She was acknowledged here. She did Chicago Lyric, and then she was everywhere. So it works every once in a blue moon.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, your voice, and obviously, voices evolve and all that. And I'm not sure what that's one of my, in the back of my mind, I'm waiting to hear what you want to be singing in 5 years. But, you have such a world-class voice. I mean, you hear your voice, you don't say, oh, that's a great, let her do Carmen in New Jersey. Like that's not who you are. I mean, there's that. And I didn't know you sang all those places. You just hear that voice and you say, okay, that's who that is. So that's an extraordinary story. Did you feel, I did a Porgy and Bess tour long ago, and those singers, many of whom now are big time, doing way more than that, but they kind of hated Porgy and Bess after a while. They're like, this is what I get to do. This is the show I do. I don't get Verdi, and I don't, that's where I'm getting, and love the piece. It's a genius piece. Probably one of my favorite American pieces, but how do you feel about that?
Oh yeah, it's not great. It's not, it feels, yeah, I mean, the music is so lovely, but there's something that feels always a little strange, that you're like hamming up the thing for like an audience of like a sea of white, and it just always feels a little like, oh,
Right.
like reminiscent of olden times when not as great things were happening, and very often the leadership, like the directors, are also white, and playing on stereotypes very often, and there are a lot of them in the show to play off of, and so it's always a slight like, but sometimes you need a check and you need to pay your bills, and for me, that tour that I mentioned in Europe was a Porgy and Bess. So had I not done that Porgy and Bess, then I wouldn't be able to be singing Brangena right now, so it is, I have always treated it as a means to an end. Certainly not an artistic experience that I will treasure for the rest of my life, but it was a paycheck that got me to where I wanted to go. And I know a lot of singers that it's a means to an end. It's how they pay their bills. Somebody on the tour said, I put my kid through college because of Porgy and Bess, So I'm grateful to Gershwin for that, for
Right.
those opportunities. But we just need more now. Like, so much wouldn't ride on Porgy and Bess if it hadn't been the only one for so long,
It's very dated. I mean, this was 1930 something, and Gershwin wrote a whole bunch of stuff, and but it got entrenched in the culture. I think it almost like it fulfilled some place for, I think, for sort of 1960s people, and it was like, oh yeah, well, we've got this, and it felt good that we had that, and then no one knew where to go from there.
Right.
But people are going other places now. I think there is more. I've heard about that Anthony Davis piece. That's a great piece.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's written so much amazing, powerful music.
Yeah. Right. No, I've thought about doing some of that. Speaking of music, let's I would love to hear your Odon Fatale. Let's share that. Eric, our master
I
of
am on it.
he's our DJ for the night. Yes, Eric Mahler, our associate conductor. Go
Maybe.
for it. I should set that up a little more for people who might not be familiar with it. I loved that production. Was that in Antwerp too?
That was. That was. That's kind of my home company. Like, they give me all the juicy things.
Wow. You inhabit every role you're in. For anyone who's not familiar with that opera or that famous aria, can you just give a quick synopsis of just what she's singing about there?
So she is la princesa, the Princess Eboli, and she is in love with Don Carlos, but she knows that he has another woman, and so she tries to have retribution, and she tells the king of him and this affair with the king's wife, who is, you know, his stepmother. And so she tells him that, which therefore means that you know, the queen is going to be. It's always so convoluted. I'm not even sure if I'm hitting all the right things. But
fatal face.
Yes.
Right? Oh, yeah.
So it's like, oh, my cursed gift, which is my beauty.
That's so beautiful.
And then and she feels terrible because A, now he's gonna die, and then B, now she's gonna be banished. The queen now said, you are like, either you're going to be like put to death, or you're gonna go to a convent. So she's like, oh, I feel really bad about this. And she's like, wait a minute, I still have one day left to go and save Don Carlos from the prison and to save his life. So here we go. And then off she ran to go save his life.
Yeah, you sing the heck out of that aria, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to get towards the end soon. I want to fit in, because you are such a flexible human being and made this amazing video. This was about a month or two ago. When did you make that your video?
Maybe it was a while ago. Maybe June or July.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we were in the middle of everything being completely shut down, and you know, this was around the time that I was just sitting at home for a very long time, and I decided, you know what, I need to make some art, and I need to make something that's meaningful. You know, it was around the time of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, all of these things, and I wanted I had been robbed of my last performance of Roberto Devereux. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to give myself my performance. So I chose that aria, all'afflitto e dolce il pianto, which means to the afflicted one, tears are sweet. They're the only joy that I have left anymore. But where I was at that time, it was in the middle of this Black Lives Matter movement. And so I realized that where I was emotionally, I could still speak the text that Sarah spoke. She was longing for her lover that was far, far away. I was longing for opera, A, that was far away, and B, for justice and equity that felt so far away. So I made this video to the afflicted, all'afflitto, and I dedicated it to everyone in the arts and also those fighting for justice and equity, and got a team of folks that were super generous and believed in the vision and signed on to make this video to the afflicted.
Let's watch. I'm not hearing it.
Yeah, sorry, doing a little troubleshooting here. Oh, I know exactly what the problem is. Sorry, everybody.
Back it up. Yeah. Okay.
Backing it up.
Thanks, Eric. Wow. So meaningful. So I love hearing what you had to say. I'd seen it before, but hearing your introduction really makes a difference too. Quite a moment. We're all in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that should be the last word on this evening, because that's such a powerful way to end. Unless anyone in our audience has anything they want to ask, Raehann, which you're welcome to. Otherwise, we can also do that, by chat. But I see a lot of GVOers out there. If anyone has anything they want, yes, Sunita, do you have something you need to say? No. Someone says it. So I want to thank Raehann so much for being with us. This was such a interesting hour, and so nice to feel your positive vibes and your energy and hear your incredible voice. What we're really hoping is that we get to collaborate with you in person again before too long. We are working on our Mahler recording, which GVO, are you hearing this voice you'll get to play with? So can you please do your parts and record the Mahler? I have to put out a message to our audience in general that GVO is working really hard to stay alive during this time, and if anyone has it in their hearts or pocketbooks to make a donation, go to gvo.org so that we can be here when this is all over, and we can maybe do a real Mahler too. We have this dream now. The GVO has a real dream of. I'm looking at Jason. It's like what? A whole Mahler too? I don't know about that, but we'll see. Either that or something else. My last question: what's your dream role? Where do you want to be in 5 years? I mean, if you're already doing Tristan, that's getting there to the ultimate place. But if there are things that you're hoping to do, that you think your voice will be different in a few years that you want to do, or even that you just hope comes your way, roles, oratorios.
I mean, I want to do a Samson and Delilah at some point.
Yeah, sure.
That would be fun. I mean, I've been really fortunate, and like my first two big roles were like Eboli and Leonora in La Favorite, which are like literally the two dramatic mezzo like dreams. So
have you done Trovatore yet or no?
Trovatore was supposed to be my debut in December, and then I'm doing it at LA Opera next year. It was supposed to be this past fall, but of course moved to next year. So that's on the docket. It's learned. Hopefully we get to sing it sometime soon. Marguerite from Damnation of Faust. I've gotten to do the concert version of that. I would love to do a staged version. Joan of Arc is a dream. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just going to say, you have one of those voices that, I can hear in any of those roles. It's not, she's just an Italian voice or she's just a German voice. I can hear you in any of those, which sounds like I'm not the only one.
Well, yay. Yeah, I'm dying to do them all.
Yeah. Well, you will. It's just going to take a little longer than planned.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear you more, and wish you all the best for now, for getting through this year. Stay safe there in Texas.
Thank you, and you guys as well, wherever you are.
We will. Okay.